Welcome to the fourth part of What's New in Autodesk Inventor 2017, a deep dive into new functionality. I'm Andreas Ernst Wagner and I work as a designated support specialist at Autodesk. Topic for this chapter are the exciting assembly design enhancements. Let's get started. Time flies. I well remember back to Inventor 5.3 in year 2002 when I was fascinated of colors with transparency could be assigned to parts. Depending on your personal need, you could be also fascinated by the new transparent command in the context menu. Just use this command to set an assembly component to transparent. To apply the new transparent command is quite easy. Nevertheless, I won't miss the chance to remind you on the different locations you can access certain Inventor commands. As mentioned, the context menu of an assembly component in the graphics window. The second option is the context menu of a component in the assembly browser. Another way is in the Eye Properties dialog box. Besides the transparent checkbox, the X, Y, and Z offset values can be used to move a non-fixed component back to the assembly origin. Previously, relationships were automatically applied to mirrored or copied components. New options in Inventor 2017 R2 let you decide if you want to include the relationships in such kind of operations. In the Copy Components and Mirror Components dialog boxes, you have the Copy Relationships, respectively Mirror Relationships checkbox available. Check or uncheck the checkboxes to include or exclude existing constraints during copy and mirror operations. The new option Ground New Components in the Mirror Components and Copy Components dialog boxes should also make your life a bit easier. This option automatically grounds the resulting mirrored or copied components. You can now quickly select from a list of available origin work planes from the Assembly Mirror Components dialog box. Instead of having to locate the work plane and expand the browser node to select it, you can make your selection directly inside the Assembly Mirror Components dialog. As always, a quick look at the system. Let's check the existing constraints at first. Looks like the assembly is fully constrained. Then we can move on with mirroring of components and focus on the Mirror Relationships command. To make the copy result more visible, I just select all available components. Still to select a mirror plane, hit OK and accept the file creation dialog. As expected, the components have been mirrored with their constraints. I undo my actions to demonstrate the Ground New Components option. Also, I'm executing nearly the identical steps for component and mirror plane selections. Of course, I activate the Ground New Components checkbox now. According to your requirements, you can choose Ground New Components and Mirror Relationships. That had the benefit to have assembly constraints available in case you need to change the design in the future. Once again, back to the start to show the direct workplane selection. I intentionally collapse the origin folder so that you can see I select the mirror workplane directly from the Mirror Components dialog. For a long time I wished to have a more comprehensive interference analysis. With the Inventor 2017.3 update, you get added a couple of really nice interference analysis command features. Let's start with the Treat Subassemblies as Components checkbox, which lets you treat subassemblies as single components and ignores the interferences within the subassemblies. The Interference Detected dialog box was made resizable and contains now information about each interference. There is an additional column, Type, to identify, for example, general, threaded, and content center parts. Even you get information about mismatched threads now. Additionally, you have interference type filtering options. The filters allow you only to display general, threads, non-threaded content center parts, and any CAD reference components. Even you can filter out interfering components you aren't interested in. Some interferences are intentionally wanted, but Inventor displays them. Just click on a component in the Interference Detected dialog and select the Ignore command to hide an interference. As soon as an ignored record is existing, the Ignored checkbox appears at the bottom of the Interference Detected dialog. By enabling this checkbox, you can display ignored interferences in the Additional Information table again. Ignored records are displayed as strike-through when the Ignored checkbox is turned on. To unhide an ignored interference, click somewhere in the Additional Information table and use the Unignore All command. Alternatively, you display hidden records by the Ignore checkbox, select the wished record, and use Unignore in the context menu. Here's another favorite feature of mine. Mismatched thread interferences are displayed now. Amazing! Let's quickly run through the available interference types. Threaded components are misaligned is displayed if, for example, a screw isn't concentric to the threaded hole. In other words, the screw axis and the threaded hole axis aren't collinear to each other. Thread designation does not match occurs if the threaded hole owns another thread size than the screw was placed in the threaded hole. Left-right-hand threads does not match. I think that's an easy one. For instance, the screw has a left-hand thread and the threaded hole a right-hand thread. The thread depth does not match information gets displayed, for example, if you have a threaded hole hasn't the full thread depth, but the bolted connection, especially the screw, requires a through hole with a full threaded hole. By the way, the checkbox Matching Threads under the Threads checkbox is selectable as soon as you have matching threads. As you may know, screws and threaded holes interfering always by default, as threaded holes use the drill diameter. So to focus on the real interferences, the matching thread interferences are hidden by default. You can turn on them by checking the Matching Threads checkbox. Let's have a really quick look at the Enhanced Interference Detected dialog box. After selecting the components of interest, you see the small blue information icon displays the thread length doesn't match. The reason is the missing thread for the blind holes. Also a nice feature is the Zoom to Interference in Graphics window when you click on the small magnifier. Lauren isn't interested in a certain interference, so he simply ignores it. Afterwards, he demonstrates how you get back a hidden interference. Just as a reminder, the copy to clipboard functionality to paste the analysis results into a notepad file, for example.